Welcome back to Tao of Twang. I'm Dave. So the lesson today is called Practicing Without a Backing Track. And what did I do? I put on a backing track and did a demo over it like I always do. So we are getting rid of it starting now. But I am going to put a bit of a loop of it at the end of this so that you can go back after having worked through what we're about to look at today and see if it influenced you, if it was transformative, right? If it created a different, kind of way of sorting things out for you. And whether it did or not, or it didn't, leave some feedback in the comments and let me know how it goes. Because this is kind of an experiment. And it is for me, too, because I'm so used to turning this backing track on and off throughout these lessons that, I actually had to start over just now because, I started, saying what I wanted to say today, and then I was like, "Now turn your backing track on." I was like, it's a habit, and I think it's a good one. I like that. This channel depends on that method a lot, and I really believe in that. I think it works, but I think there are some benefits to not having to adhere to the backing track, right? And one of the kind of ones that jumps right out at me is that you just have time to do whatever you want to do, right? If our chords are here that I'm using today are A minor and G, there. Now see, I almost started playing just like the back. Don't have to, right? And here's my point. Let's say pick some skills that I'm working on, just any one of us, right? I'm, working on some pentatonic stuff and maybe some triad tones, right? Kind of two staples that we often work on together on this channel. Okay, so what's the difference here? What's the why? Why are we doing this way today? Well, because what I just did, I just worked out. I just did whatever I did, and when my ear was satisfied that I'd completed a statement, or I'd made a phrasing, or I'd worked on the things I wanted to do, and then in some not just assigned way or prescribed way, I changed the chord when I was ready to change it, right? Not because the chart said I have to change it here and now, right? So there's a lot of freedom in that, and I really encourage you to embrace that idea and to give this a try and really play around with that space and really test it, After a while, that groove that comes from inside you, not outside you, where you're trying to I hear their groove and I'm trying to be like that. Big difference between that and something emerging out of your own process. Now, I don't want to get too sidetracked here on this, but this is basically how I create the backing tracks that are used on this channel, right? I don't just think them out. I don't intellectualize them and then just say, this is what I'm going to do. I say, what are the skills that we want to talk about today? And then I do what I just showed you. I mess around. I'm like, okay, we want to talk about pentatonic. And I'm like, all right, well, we need, at least one chord to do that over, or some kind of key, or at least a location of the scale or something. And then I usually want to put another chord or two in there just to make it funner, right? Just to make it more musical. And then when we get into our triad tones and things, of course, then we address each one of those chords using a similar system, and we incorporate that into it, right? So, and a lot of times I'm really doing most of the composition for that, just messing around with the guitar. Then sometimes I'll put a beat on and build it around that, but usually I'll just put the click on, the metronome on, and record just a rhythm guitar, and then put the drums in even after that, right? So a lot of you are asking about the process of this, making the backing tracks and stuff, and not going to get into that fully today, but this is a little dimension of that, right? The things that I'm creating, and I don't use covers and other pieces of music. It's all created specifically for these lessons. There is a creative process that I use, and what I just talked about there was a portion of it. So let's say the skills that we want to work on are some pentatonic stuff and some triad tones. Well, we map out a couple of triads. For those two chords, and take your time, and then all right, how can I blend that with some of the scale stuff? Hear how there was a chord change there, but there's no chords. That's what I mean by this thing emerging from inside, right? Your mind, your musical mind and body is filling in the parts that are not being played, but they're there, okay? And then I think this is, difficult to describe in some ways, this process. But what I do, I think, is when I'm satisfied, with, messing around, I'm gnawing at it, Yeah, now I'm done. Now I'm going to play my G chord. Okay, does that make sense? I'm trying to really exaggerate it, like make sure that I'm not, adhering to some 4-beat, 8-beat thing. But the more you do this, you will. A groove will be born out of that process, but it'll be one that came from your mind and your body, right? It will feel right because it is right. It came from you, right? And I know that sounds a little, philosophical or something, but that's I like to give you concrete things that you can use, but also some, provoke some trust in your own process, right? And you really are putting things on a canvas and like messing around and seeing, what it looks like, So here's a couple of just other ideas. Let's go with the pentatonic stuff and some triad tones, and say that was our skills that we wanted to really work on using this process. Pick a couple of chords. A minor, A minor pentatonic. G major, so maybe I'll try a major pentatonic. A minor pentatonic. G major pentatonic, right? And I like to do things on the bass strings too that are sometimes kind of repetitive, but like little riffs, and kind of use them as a motif. And this gets more into the groove. This leads more to a pattern of how you're going to play rhythmically, maybe with the band or with other people or something, or on a track, with a drum loop or something. But I like to work out little things using a similar process where I'll just kind of see how I don't always have to hit the chord on the downbeat. Sometimes you're just wherever you are, and you just kind of go and fill that chord in because your body's starting to you're tracking it, even though you're not playing the chords in rhythm all the time, right? And that stuff it's really cool when all this starts to kind of come together because, like I said, it comes from your own version of it. It's unique, right? And then the last thing I'll mention to throw in there is, let's say, some of the triad stuff, So I played the major for the A. I want a minor, right? Okay, work it into more positions after a while. And there I did start to get more into a distinct, kind of, beats per minute feel, or like a 4 beat measure or something. And that's what'll happen, right? You'll start, then say, hey, you know what? There's a little riff. I got to get my drummer and bass player over here tomorrow and start working this out. This is a tune. This is a jam, right? And you'll know it when that stuff starts really coming together. It's just so much fun. Now, or make your own loop. Once you come up with something, say, hey, I might put a metronome or just make a simple recording on your iPhone or something, right? Lay some chords down and that you come up with through this kind of process, and then solo over it, right? Now, I'm going to put mine on. Mine meaning the one that came from my messing around, my process, and you don't have to use this one, right? If you're doing this and you come up with something different, man, go with that. Start making your own stuff, But I'm just going to see what happens if I put this on. Oh, well, for one thing, I've been moving a lot faster than the tempo of this, right? In this lesson portion. That's okay. Because I can adjust to it. But I'm going to use some of the ideas that I worked out in the last 10 minutes in here. That minor pentatonic major. and just see if, I'm just curious, really. If you all do this, I'm really curious to know if it has real influence or if it leads you somewhere that feels different. Okay? And if it does, we're still going to use that backing track format. Don't worry, we're not going to get rid of all the backing tracks because that's our bread and butter on here. But I'm always looking for ways to open up new channels for you and for myself. Maybe this is one of those. You let me know how it goes. All right? Talk to you next time.